Hello, this is the science activity with the dirt cup that we normally do. And so I want to give you a little background since we haven't done any science. And we're talking about soil and the type of soil we have. And so soil is just the loose rock and bits of decaying plants and animals and material. And that's what you would dig in if you were allowed to go out and dig in the dirt or play in the dirt. And so there's some other things that go into the soil. You have what they call humus, which is the remains of living things that have died and decayed. If you think about it, as you're driving along the road, you see maybe a dead deer, maybe a dead raccoon. There's all kinds of dead animals along the road. And so God has allowed those animals to decay. Otherwise, can you imagine having all those dead animals just piling up? It would be rather smelly and stinky, and there wouldn't be anything. So when that deer starts to rot, something happens, and sometimes you go by and say, oh, that stinks. They get real swollen, and that is just it decaying and rotting. And so we're going to talk about the different layers of soil. And so the activity calls for a cup, and it wants you to put the one solid cookie down in the bottom of your cup. And so that represents the bedrock. That is the large unbroken rock that lays underneath the subsoil. And so that's if you dig down really, 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 really far, there's this big piece of unbroken rock. And then you have the subsoil, and that is the larger pieces of rock that contain no humus. That's not where things are broken down. And so the next thing you need to do is take your pudding and just put that on top of your bedrock. Now, the subsoil has larger pieces of rock. So as you, this is the broken cookie, and it's not so fine. It's just bits and pieces. So if you think about it, you're just your rocks that are thrown in there, that are just kind of mixed in there, and then they want you to mix that up because there's a little bit of rock and there's a little bit of soil mixed in. And if you've ever been with somebody that's digging maybe for posts to go in the ground for a fence or a building, and they dig down so far, you can start to see this with this subsoil that has pieces of rock, but it's also got soil in it. And then what's on top is called the topsoil, excuse me. And that's the real finely crushed. And the best way to finely crush it, I use a rolling pin and just beat them. And so that is your finely crushed, is your topsoil. So the topsoil is what you mow the grass. That's where your grass is going to grow. It contains most of the humus, the rotten, decaying plants and animals, and plants grow in this layer. So this is where, if you're going to plant a tree, it'll be in this top layer here, and that is your subsoil. It's really fine, and so this is your layers, and you have the layer of topsoil, which is where our plants are going to grow, your trees are going to grow. It's got your humus in it. That's where the decayed and rotting animals and plants are, and then beneath that you have your subsoil, and that's where the soil and the rock is mixing together. It doesn't have a lot of the decaying plants and animals in it. And then clear on the bottom is our bedrock. That is our solid foundation underneath all of that. It's large, it's unbroken, so a lot of times when the workers go to drill really down deep, they'll go smooth, and then they hit that bedrock, and it's a little bit harder to do. It takes a little bit longer to get through. So you have your dirt cup activity sheet, and they have on there, they want you to draw a picture of your dirt cup and show the different layers, and then you have 3 questions there. Which layer of the pudding represents the subsoil? So is that the cookie that is the whole cookie, or is that the cookie that has the pudding and the broken cookie in it, or is it the piece that has the crushed cookie? Number 2, which layer of the pudding represents the topsoil, and what represents the bedrock? I hope you learned something today, and we'll see you soon.